All right, here we go. 3 times that I almost died. Let's get it. First things first, though. Two things actually. One is, if you're here, thank you for coming to my channel, and thank you for watching. If you've watched any of my videos, and especially to the people who've been showing love to my first time in jail video, I really appreciate it. And the other thing that I want to say is these things are not like opinion or whatever. Like, these are times every single thing I'm about to tell you not only is 100% true, but also, like, I ended up in the hospital every single time. So it's not no little, oh, it could have been so bad. Like, I literally was in the hospital. Like, I'm not gonna I don't like to like throw words around like that, okay? So to kick it off, it started, my very first time was when I was 16. Okay, now this is a little later in my career of where my videos usually are at. This is the summer between 10th and 11th grade. Okay, so I had been living in Redondo for a little bit after having to move to go to school and whatever. So it was very common for where I lived in these apartments called Brookside Village that were at like this corner, and it's right across the street from Torrance. So like the normal thing would be for me to call my homie Max and my homie Eric, and I would go meet up with them. And I had a cruiser, a Sector 9 board that was like Rasta colored, and it had like a lion and like a crown. It was really cool, and I rode that shit everywhere. So it was just a regular day. Called them up. I was gonna meet them somewhere, maybe probably like somewhere near like Del Amo Liquor or somewhere around that area. That was usually where we'd meet up. And if you know the area, you'll understand. But if not, I lived at Prospect and Sepulveda or Camino Real. But it's just kind of like, it's not a hill, but it's like at the top of, like, if you were gonna go the opposite way of where I was going, it's definitely more of like a hill. But where I was going, you kind of got to go up, and then you end up going down once you pass the street Pearl. Then you start going downhill more, and you hit Torrance, which then I would need to make a right onto that. And there was a little parking lot with like a donut shop and a smoke shop across from 7-Eleven. Everybody knows, if you know what I'm talking about, you know. And I would cut through right there. So like, I'm picking up speed while I'm coming down, but it's not super fast or anything, you know. And I'm pretty good on my skateboard, knowing how to control like my foot and slow down, whatever. So like, I know how to, you know, I'm not stupid with it. So I'm not I'm not stupid with it. I just almost died on it. Anyways, so I cut through, and I cut this parking lot. That was fine, nothing crazy. And I'm still going, and I'm going, and now to the right of me there's this big apartment complex, and like, it's that, and then this like Christian or Catholic high school that's like right next to it. Okay, so I'm like still picking up speed, I'm coming down, and like, I couldn't do anything because I was on the sidewalk, and there's always like that patch of grass, then there's the curb and you can get to the street. So I was waiting for the little driveway thing, because cars would have to come into there to pull in to put in their code to like go to like park and stuff. So I was kind of scanning everything. Scanning. I did a horrible job scanning. So I'm like looking, and I see that there's only one lane of traffic that's stuck, that's not moving. Like, so any cars, like, it was like Torrance Boulevard is a big street. It's a busy street. So there's probably at least one, two, three, at least three like busy like lanes. Okay, so there was no cars coming that were going the same way as me. So I'm coming down the hill. I'll never forget, I was listening to Hypnotize by Biggie Smalls, and I'm coming down, and I see the little divot. So I'm on my Sector 9, and you know, of course, my headphones are blasting, not listening, not like, just so out of it. And I get to, like, I'm like, it was simple enough for me to get to, like, now all of a sudden I'm in between the lane of the cars. Like, I can look, and if I look to my right, it's someone's, like, the driver's, and then if I look to my left, it's the back of someone else's car. Okay. So, me being a fucking idiot, stupidest thing, like legit. I didn't even realize I did this until I'm telling this story, like, today. I looked to my left first, which is like I was going right. Like, so for me to be in the position I was in and to look left, there was not ever going to be a reason for cars to be coming. Like, the cars would have had to have been driving the opposite direction, coming that way. You get what I'm saying? Like, so, like, I look and I'm like, oh, no cars that way. And then I take one step out of where I was between the cars that were stopped. And as I take my step, I'm going and I'm turning my head this way. And before I can even get my head, like, a good, like, I remember, like, turning, like, maybe like this much. And then all of a sudden, boom, I just get smacked. And all of a sudden I'm up in the air, like 10 feet. I'm up in the air, just like ragdoll. And, like, I can't even see. Like, I remember, like, the sky looked weird. Like, everything, it was really hard to place. And I came down like a sack of bricks, just came down. And I was kind of like laying there. And I remember I could hear on my earbud, I could still hear Hypnotize. And I went and I looked and I saw that my skateboard had made it to the other side. It was in the gutter, but it was on the other side of the street that I was trying to go to. So immediately in my mind, I'm like, gotta go get my board. Like, I'm not even thinking, like, that's literally where my mind was at. So I go and I grab my board, and the guy's like, hey, do you want to ride? Before he's pulling up to me, and there's a lady in, like, a SUV, and she goes, I'm calling the fucking cops. That's, like, one of the few things I remember. The guy comes over to me. I remember he had, like, a beard, and he kind of looked chomo-ish, but not really, He had, like, those kind of glasses that are, like, tinted dark. And he was like, do you want to ride to the hospital? And, I'm, like, looking at myself. I'm bleeding. It's hard to breathe. I'm feeling my head. I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. So, I just hop in this dude's car. Like, and I'm sure, like, I can only imagine, like, being in traffic and, like, now being older, driving, seeing that happen, and then the person just gets in the car and they drive away. Like, I get it. Who knows? But for that guy's credit, like, he was taking me to the hospital, like, for all intents and purposes. He has to turn around, and I tell him what hospital and we're going, and then we get to, like, this corner that's right there on Sepulveda and Hawthorne, and there's a big, like, nutrients, like, vitamin store type place in this parking lot. And all of a sudden I see, like, red and blue behind us, and I see that we're getting pulled over. So I'm like, oh shit. And, obviously that lady who said, I'm gonna call the fucking cops, called the fucking cops. So they pull us over and they're asking questions, and they take me from his car and they put me in, like, one of those little things where you're strapped down, and they take me the rest of the way. It's literally a block and a half to the emergency room. And I get there, and I wasn't there for very long, even though I remember it being kind of dark when I was done. But literally I left, I felt like a ninja turtle. Like, I was wrapped up with blue medical tape on all my joints, like on my legs, on my knees, and on my elbows. And I got 3 staples in the top of my head, and they fell out over time, or I don't know exactly what happened to them, but I remember for a fact I had to get 3 staples on the top of my head. And it was just one of those things where, like, it hurt to breathe, hurt to, like, smoke, hurt to cough. And I still ended up meeting up with my friends, like, after everything was done and done. I can remember meeting up with them and one of the homies who ended up getting deported, unfortunately. But that was definitely a wild one, and that was between 10th and 11th grade. Okay, now this one is, like, NSFW, whatever the fuck you want to call it, trigger warning, whatever. Like, it's about drugs and it's not good, and it's about me, and I don't look like a good person. So it is what it is, man. Like, this is the reality of it. If you can't handle it, skip or go to another video, whatever. Okay. If not, subscribe, because this is the type of shit I'm here for. So back in like 2020, I went to an inpatient rehab. Inpatient is where you stay there. Outpatient is where you go. I've done outpatient before as a kid. Like, that's a whole nother video for another time. But outpatient is where you spend a bunch of time there. And you go and leave, and you can still sleep in your own bed. But inpatient, you're there. So, I was there, and I was there during the pandemic, like the heart of the pandemic, like literally like July, August, September of 2020. That's where I was. So trust me, I got stories. But anyways, while you're there, whether you hear about it, see it, talk about it, it'll come around where people will talk about how a lot of times people will be in like a program, and they'll be getting clean, and for one reason or another, either they'll graduate or maybe they won't, and they like go back to what they were doing. But there's like a period of time that's happened now, like if you're in rehab for 6 months and then you go back to the streets, like you can't be just automatically off to the races of what you were doing 6 months ago at like the peak of like your addiction. Like you can't, like, if you do that, it's pretty much like almost a guarantee that something bad's gonna happen. Not every time, but like just it's a very common thing in that world. I feel that like it happens, that people are just, oh, that's not gonna happen to me, or like that's them, not me, my system, blah blah. Like we think we know everything when we don't. Like, or I think I thought I knew everything when I didn't. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but anyways, so this was like a couple like months after, like you go to the rehab, then you do the sober living, and then after that you have to figure out what you're gonna do. But that's like a total of like 9 months, so it's a while. So I did everything right, did everything, meetings, whatever, doing my thing, and my time runs out, so I eventually end up moving back to Torrance. So I'm back in Torrance, and this one night happens, and I took like a Xanax or something similar to that, and it just made me not, like, it wasn't like I hate this, I hate life, it was just kind of like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. Like, it was just kind of like the consequences and the like part of your brain that you think, well, I probably shouldn't do that because that's gonna happen, like that was like gone. So I'm like, cool, whatever. I went and made a phone call or a text or something. It's disgusting how quick it took. After like being out of everything for like months, if not like almost like a year, it's disgusting how quickly it was able to take shape of just like it's disgusting. So I ended up going and meeting up with someone. We met up outside of these apartment complexes in Torrance. And like, I know a lot of people in Torrance, but I don't know anybody that actually lives at the place where I was at. Okay. So we're there, and it's just me and one other person. And like, he passes me like the foil and the lighter and a little like pen that was like the inside of the pen, the straw part. And then I go to take one hit, and I can't even remember taking the hit, but literally like everything was black. And then the next thing I know is I'm opening my eyes, and there's like two people over me, and like my eyes start to focus more, and I can see the white, and I can see I'm in a hospital room, and they're clear, and like they're like doing the defibrillator thing to my fucking chest. And like I open my eyes, and they're like, oh, he's responsive or something. And they ask me a couple questions like, who's the president, or like something like that. And I get the questions right, you know, and I'm gonna tell you, this is how fucking sick this shit is. This is how fucking sick. Like, if you can, like, muster this or whatever, or picture this, just like, this is how fucking sick it can be. I'm sure everyone has their own, you know, stories or whatever, but for mine, I'm waking up, I don't have a shirt on. I can see that in order for them to get to my chest quickly, they had to take fucking scissors and cut through my jacket, which was like a nice jacket, and my shirt in order to have access to my chest. Okay. So I'm like waking up, answering questions, whatever. The first thing I did, the very first thing I did, I didn't say thank you. I didn't like pray. I didn't do any of that shit. I went and took my hand and I went in my pocket and I went and I was reaching in all my pockets and I wasn't looking for my cell phone, wasn't looking for my wallet. I was looking for the fucking bag of drugs that sent me to the hospital, that sent me to the spot where I was at, right that at that moment where people had to fucking save my life and bring me back. That was the first concern I had, was trying to find that. And then my second concern was looking at my jacket on the ground and going, oh man, that was like my favorite jacket. Like that's like how selfish I was thinking of. Like, it's like, dude, I get fucking a million other jackets. I'd rather have no jacket. I'd have nothing and be alive than to have a million fucking jackets and have to go through that shit again, you know? But that's how selfish my mind was being. And I even was as selfish to the point of texting the person I was with and like I'm asking what was going on, but at the same time like I'm trying to like figure out like what happened to the shit, you know? And like it's just, that's how disgusting this shit is, man. Like, it's like I didn't think I think I hated and didn't understand until I'm like, you find yourself at that point and then you can understand. But until then, just off of like speculating or whatever, it's very hard. Not impossible, but very hard. So like I'm hitting him up and he's talking to me and, you know, he's telling me like how like he was on like parole and how like he had to get out of there, but he called and made sure that I made contact with the EMTs. Shout out to you if you're watching, you know who you are. I'm not gonna name drop anything, but like this dude for real saved my life. And like, you know, fortunately he was able to call like anonymously. I know there's places and laws that either they've changed or not or whatever where people are afraid to call. People end up next to the dumpster or something. Very glad and fortunate that that was not me and that whatever happened. But just, that's how sick I was in my head at that moment. Was just like I'm like looking for the shit that literally put me in the hospital, like, to begin with. So like it was really embarrassing. Like I ended up, you know, like I understood what happened finally and was kind of like, okay. And I actually had to, it was late, it was like probably like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the only person that I could call was the person who was my old house manager for the sober living that I stayed at. And I had to call him at like 3 in the morning and explain everything and that I needed a ride. And not only that, but I needed a shirt because I did not have a shirt. And like, you know, they, like I said, they had to cut me open like as if they were like about to do surgery or something. But like I just remember having to call and that, and it was just like, it was really like embarrassing but humbling at the same time, of just like putting things into perspective of just, it's not fair for all the people that are around. And just to think like, oh, I'm just going to do this real quick. Like I wasn't depressed. I wasn't trying to do anything like that, but that's how it would have got took by everyone around me. And that's like the most selfish thing that you could fucking do, you know? So I'm very fortunate that things went the way that they went. Things could always be worse. And, you know, just, it's a everyday struggle. It's a every minute struggle. It's a every second struggle. Like, it's a struggle, okay? So that's the second time. And now this is the most recent time And if you've stuck around this long, I'm going to be uploading, like, you know, I have x-rays, I have pictures. Hopefully it doesn't get flagged or something because of YouTube rules or whatever, but like I definitely have been trying to like document how things have been going, okay? So, this is the third time, okay? Third time. And this is within the past like 10 years or so, I'd say. 10 to 15 years. So, I was going to go do an open mic. Open mic, most of you know, but if you don't, you know, you go and you tell jokes. It's like anybody can go, usually only costs $5 if it does cost something, and it's not anything that's really serious. You just go and you just tell jokes to people. Like, I haven't been super social as of the last few years, as of like a lot, you know, like I'm trying to get out of like my comfort zone, or just kind of just get out a little bit more. And I've always enjoyed comedy, stand-up comedy. I've seen Dave Chappelle live. Chappelle show was like my shit growing up. Like, I was like the perfect age that hit and everything. But like, I've seen him live. I've seen like a lot, not a lot, but I've seen a couple like very prominent stand-up people live. So I've always been like writing jokes. Like, I have in my notepad, I have a bunch of different jokes. And like, I don't sleep a lot. So a lot of times when I'm up, I'm like, fuck it. And I start writing and stuff. And, you know, it's something I would really like to pursue, whether it's a writing class or just still writing jokes, whatever. But anyways, you know, I had some jokes. I knew a place that, unfortunately, around my area, Thursday is the big open mic night. So there will be like, I know of at least like 3 open mics, but they're the same day and the same time. So I was going to an open mic that was in Hermosa Beach. And real quick, I'll probably get into this in another video, but the week before this, I tried to go and I was wearing my boot of my broken foot, and I tripped over the threshold or whatever, the thing that's like on the bottom of the door. So I'm literally walking into this, like, it's a restaurant and it's a bar and grill, like there's like, you know, tables and all this stuff. It's filled with people. And I walk through the door and I'm immediately just like, smack. I just fall straight on my face. Straight on my face and on all my stuff, and I'm like literally sitting there. And I still sat there and I still did my set when the time came. So like, that was the week before that I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go back the following week, you know, make sure that I make it through the door, you know. Like, little did I know that that would be the least of my worries, okay? So that was the place where I was trying to go. That was the, you know, that was the spot. So I'm on my way and I'm going down, like, basically all I have to do is take streets, like one street that goes this way and then one street that goes this way. It's like pretty much that's all I have to do. It's like a 15, less than 20-minute drive, but essentially all I got to do is go a long ways that way, then a little long ways that way, and then just right there, it's right there. So I'm going the first stretch, the first long ways, right? So I'm taking the street it's called Prairie, okay? So it turns into Madrona when you're like in Torrance more, but once you cross Del Amo, it turns into Prairie. So I'm like coming and I catch the light on Del Amo, and I'm coming, you know, going up the street towards the street like that I'm gonna have to make a left on eventually. So as I'm coming, and like I had been dealing with problems with my car that it's documented, but I had been dealing with problems with the power steering. And you know, if your power steering's ever been out, then you know what I'm talking about. And if not, when your power steering's out, it's really hard, like without the fluid and stuff, like you're like trying to, it's like where you think you have to use 2 hands to like curve it, or it's just not smooth, you know? So I had been dealing with that for like a couple months with the mechanic and stuff. It's definitely documented. So this night, when I got it back, he literally said, "This is the best I could do for you. Like, I had already gotten it back a couple times, but this last time he's like, look, I don't know what to tell you after this. This is the best I can do. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So that night, I remember it was the mic was supposed to start at like 7, between like 6 and 7. So it was like 6:30, 6:45. I'm a very punctual person. So it's like 6:35 when all of this happens. I'm driving, I catch the light. There's no cars to the left of me. I'm in like the fast lane, okay? There's no cars to the left of me. There's at least 2 lanes to the right of me. I'm driving, and like once you cross Del Amo, like the street starts to kind of curve. It's not, there's no signs, there's no anything. It's not like a hard like L or something. It just starts to curve. You start going up a hill, and it like kind of curves, and then it'll kind of like snake. Like it'll kind of like snake up, and then it'll like kind of go back down, and then you're back down to the street that I would have to turn onto. So I was already coming, like, you know, I had caught a couple green lights, you know, so I'm going. And when I cross Prairie, or when I cross the Del Amo, and the median is right next to me. There's a median that has grass and it has trees and stuff. So when I cross the street, I'm trying to take my steering wheel, and I'm trying to like just like turn, like I don't have to, it's not an aggressive turn. I'm just trying to, you know, aim it so it goes into the right place so that I can do that. My steering wheel locks up on me. Yeah, locks up on me like this. And I'm like, I understand that like my car is going this way, and the median, like my car is going straight for the median of by the way that like the fluidity of the street, or just the way that you have to follow it. So fortunately for me, I was wearing my seatbelt. Wear your fucking seatbelts. If this isn't a reason, I don't know a good one, wear your fucking seatbelts. I have pictures of bruises where you can tell where my seatbelt was. And I'll get into that in a second. But, like, for real, wear your seatbelts, because my steering wheel locks up, okay? I'm like, oh shit, I knew something was gonna happen. So I try to brace myself as best as I can. And I go across the median, I go over a tree, and like I end up on the other side of traffic. And thank God, like, that there was not any lanes of traffic coming the opposite way, like the opposite way of where I was coming, because there easily could have been, and if there was, then it would have been a disaster. And also, if I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, I would have just been projectiled into the street through the glass right there, and then cars would have just zoom zoom, and like I definitely had multiple hospitals, doctors, whatever you want to call it, whoever you can think of, and it's like they're like talking to me like, yeah, you know, like you're real lucky that you had that seatbelt on, or else you wouldn't be sitting in that chair right there. And like at first I'm like, oh yeah, like, you know, they're like putting it to me like that, and I swear, like it kept getting more like aggressive. So I'd go to one place and they'd be like, yeah, you know, you're real lucky you had that seatbelt on, or you would be just a mangled, fried mess from that accident. You wouldn't have made it out of there at all. And I'm just like sitting there like in my cast, and like I have like all my like bandages and stuff, and I'm just like sick. Like it was like a competition at one point. But anyways, I appreciate you if you've made it this far. I try to keep it as interesting as possible, and I'm gonna upload some clips, some pictures and stuff that you can see, like at least from this last accident. The other two kind of happened I mean, the first one definitely, that was 15 years ago. Other one was a little more recent, but I don't really have much from that besides a fucked up story that makes me sound like an asshole. And then I have this one, and this is one that I've had the most chance at being able to document, and obviously I'm not doing anything, so, you know, it's not pretty, but, you know, it is what it is. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as my jail one. Run that shit up. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I'm here to stay, baby.